G'day you mob, welcome to this episode of Pete versus Plants. I am Pete and the plants are coming. It's going to be another one of these episodes, guys, with the Aeroponics unit that I have here on the side. Now, I've had this going for probably a month and a half, maybe a little longer, but I lifted it up the other day and I could see a bunch of roots. So there are definitely at least a few things in here that are ready to come out and get potted up. So I thought we could do that today. What do you reckon? All right, so check out the original video, which I will link up above here, where we set this up. But this is my second round going through the process of rooting things in aeroponics. And as a sort of short explanation, aeroponics is where you have a container like this, a closed container that has a pump at the bottom with a water reservoir down here. The pump sprays a sort of fine mist of water up, and this keeps the roots moist. And there's also obviously a good mixture of oxygen in there, and then on the top here we just have a little sort of dome to keep the humidity up as well. And we were trying to see, if memory serves me correctly, if we could root loads and loads of different cuttings in each of these positions on the station. So there are 24 in here, and I was using at least double node cuttings where there was a node below the pot here and one above to see if both of those would root, because previously, and you can probably see here, I had luck with the humidity in here activating these aerial roots above, and I thought this might be a good way of squeezing more out of less space. And then on top of that, we actually pushed in a bunch of cuttings, at least not for all of them, but for some of them, into the same pots as well. So yeah, hopefully we're going to get loads and loads more than 24 out of this box. So let's just lift this up. I'm going to quickly try and turn it so that the water doesn't go everywhere. And it looks like we've got sodoroi. We've got some variegated Monstera, adansonii, laniata. We then have some Cebu Blue in here, as well as some Monstera, siltepecana, El Salvador. There's a few more Cebu Blues here. We've got some variegated Monstera, adansonii, just the normal form. And then I think at the end here we're lechleriana. So Monstera, lechleriana. So I think that's everything. Now, I'm having a look and I can see a few dead leaves, or at least leaves on the way out. There is one right in the middle. Actually, there looks like there might be a couple that have actually rotted away, at least the leaves have. So I'm just gonna try and pull these out, and they've gone moldy, which is, you know, a common thing because of the humidity in there and the lack of air movement. But they've effectively gone to mush here. See if I can just get some foil, get rid of this. But it's interesting, even though those have gone to mush and there's a bit of mold growing in here, it doesn't seem to have really spread to a lot of other things. So I think obviously if you have healthy cuttings, even if there is mold that appears, it may not necessarily just dig into things. So yeah, as you can see at the top here, even on the Monstera lechleriana, we've had some activation of these aerial roots and they are growing like crazy. I can see a similar thing here for some of the Cebu Blue, the Epipremnums. In fact, most of the stuff here that has nodes above the pot have roots that are growing and have activated. So these are the Philodendron sodoroi, and that's happened to them as well. So it looks like this is a pretty promising kind of way to propagate things, guys. Now, oh man, and check this one out. Look at this root from lechleriana. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So I'll lift it up and we're gonna have a look under for the first time together. So I did have a little peek and I could see some roots the other day that were coming down and were in the water reservoir, and that was when I was like, okay, this is probably time to pull everything out and pot them up. But I haven't actually had a good look under here to see how much has rooted up. So, you know, there could be a few in there that have done nothing, but I have a feeling based on the amount of root activation and growth on the top here that we're going to have a veritable forest of roots beneath. So you ready? We'll count this in. 1, 2, 3. It looks like we've done well, guys. All right, so I can see, wow, I can see roots on pretty much everything. That's amazing. Look at that, guys. I'll see if I can tip it sideways without losing anything. Absolutely amazing. And so they're color-coded. So over the top here, I've got the Philodendron sodoroi. Look at those dark red roots, and they've gone nuts. The next one across the blue there is the Monstera adansonii laniata. We then have Monstera siltepecana El Salvador in yellow. The green is Epipremnum. I can't see the next one across. Red is Monstera adansonii variegata. And then the one on this side is the Monstera lechleriana. Now the interesting thing is so much growth. Look at that root in front of my face. That is from lechleriana, and I have a lot of trouble rooting these in water. I tried to root them, granted it was in winter, probably 3 or 4 months ago, and all the leaves died off and I was just left with some wet sticks that had barely activated. And that was after like 3 months of trying to root them. So I assume it was probably lower temperatures, but then also these aeroponics boxes just seem to absolutely go nuts. So what am I going to do with taking these guys out? What is the easiest way of doing this? And how am I going to pot them up? I think I might end up potting them up in semi-hydro, but I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I should have planned ahead. I should have sat down and had a think about this. What can I put these guys into? Maybe I get a bunch of these cups to begin with, and I will pull things out and pot them, well, not pot them up, but put them into their respective pots. And what do we need? 6 as I go pulling them out, and we will just go through each one gradually. All right, so we'll start with the Monstera lechleriana, and man, these have probably done the best out of everything. Jesus. And there's one here that looks like it's actually slipped through. Yeah, it's slipped down, and it's such a mess to get out. Because I put multiple cuttings in there, one of them has slipped down and the growth point has actually started all the way from underneath in the darkness and is bright white, but it's grown up through the crack. So I'm just going to see if I can pull this guy out gently. Yeah, the root's stuck to the outside too. This is the funny thing, they grip on to the rubber inserts. Okay, here we go. Far out. Yeah, so look, the node that actually activated is down here, but there are also roots from this node up here. So the reason that I did this, where I put in a 2-node cutting like this, and you can see there is a little bit of rot at the top here, was so that once I'd finished, I could actually cut the middle here and end up with 2 rooted cuttings. Granted, there's obviously probably just going to be one that had a growth point, but you've taken one spot effectively inside your aeroponics unit and gotten 2 nodes out, and you could obviously fit more in if you really wanted to. So I'm wondering how I can do this delicately without doing any damage to the roots. I guess we'll just chuck it down like that for now. And you'll see here that I'd squeezed 2 cuttings into the same spot. So these 2 were together. The top here has activated, which is cool. That's quite a bit of growth too. It looks like it's come out of that point. In fact, that's a growth point, so that may have already been on the way. So like, sorry, a tip. Yeah, I guess this was a mid cutting, and this one over here, gently, was a tip cutting. But anyway, yeah, so you can see the bottom one here has activated and the top one as well. And it's kind of cool that you don't need to chop them up first. You leave them as 2 nodes, and you can kind of decide later what you want to do. You know, you could just leave them as both rooted ones. Now this is interesting. So again, same thing here. I've got 2 double noded cuttings in the same pot, but none of the nodes, or neither of the nodes on either below, have actually activated, and the top 2 have. So if I pull these guys out, and the roots have again grown around and attached to the side of the rubber insert here, you just remove this. That's really interesting. I wonder why the bottom nodes didn't activate. I guess that the hormones could be going all the way up to the top. Bit of rot there. The top of the cuttings, and causing those roots to activate. So those are the roots that have activated that top node there, but the bottom nodes haven't. So yeah, I guess it's not always going to activate every single node to start growing roots out of. This one, next one along. Oh man, this one is developed. Look at that. That is like 2 months, guys, maybe even less. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look again at when I did that video to set this up, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long. But look at that growth and those secondary roots coming out. How nuts is that? Look at the thickness of this root too coming out of this cutting. Isn't that just bananas? So, same thing here. Well, this one has activated that growth point there. 2 nodes have activated, and this one has obviously gone absolutely nanas. I think I might have to just lie this one down. It's not going to fit in the cup. And then with this one, which is also a tip cutting, the middle or the top node here, I guess, above has activated. The bottom one hasn't done anything. And interestingly, there's a bit of stem rot. So I wonder if that's where it was like touching the rubber. That might have been the case. But it's funny that there's much less root development here on that one compared to this one when they were sitting next to one another. So it does feel semi-random at times. Tell you what, yeah, what am I going to do with you? Jesus. All right, I'm just going to lie you down for now, I think. And we still have one left for the lechleriana, and I think this one is pretty well developed too, in fact. Oh my God. Hopefully I can get it out without any breakage. There we go. Beautiful. This one looks like another good textbook one of activation. Ooh, interesting, okay. This one's actually experienced a bit of rot. But the good thing is the node above has survived and rooted. The one below, it's like the node, the leaf is at least okay, but everything around it has rotted. So I guess that happens sometimes. Do I have scissors? I am just going to chop the rot off the bottom there, make sure that it's nice and green, and chuck that into the mix here. And this one is beautiful. Same thing again, interestingly, the bottom node is the one that has activated the growth point there, and there's roots. It's so funny when you can see that obviously this is activated and started growing, the growth point, and then the next node up has already pushed out a little white root as well. And we have a big root from the top node there too. So there we go. So out of 4 spots, guys, in the Aeroponics station, and I can't find space for that one either. Just going to chop the rod off the top of this one as well. All green, all green. Out of 4 spots that you can see here, we have, I think we'd put 2 in each. Some have rotted, some have died, but maybe, what would that be? 4, 8, 12, maybe 12. Maybe we've lost about 4 or some of the nodes didn't activate. But out of 4 spots, the whole point here is that we have many more than 4 rooted cuttings potentially, and we can chop these up as well. So let's move on to the next one, and you can see that there is, I don't know if you can see from there, maybe you can't, but there's quite a bit of rot of leaves. This happens sometimes where, for whatever reason, a leaf gets infected with mold and decides to rot off. But I think, as you can see here, we'll start with this one in the middle. The rest of the cutting seems to be fine. That's weird. This has grown through one of the fenestrations in the adansonii. The rest looks all good. It's just that tip, I guess it was the growing tip of this cutting had all rotted off, so that happens. But as you can see, nice roots there. This probably needs a bit longer. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do with this one. Maybe we chuck it back in. I might give these a wash though. So for now, I'm just going to chuck them in cups, and we'll have a think about putting them back later after I give things a clean. All right, let's grab another one out. Ooh, bit of root rottage here too. That's interesting. It's very interesting. I think what may have happened here, that's root rot too, and this bit too. I think I may have already rooted this in water, and it wasn't going very fast, and so I chucked it in the aeroponics station. I can't really remember. I'll have to go back to the original video and check to see if it was already rooted or not, but as you can see, it has done pretty well, and this is probably ready to pot up into leca or soil or whatever other medium, because it's got these secondary roots coming out. So that's looking good. Now just let me see if I can, Jesus, take this off. See how the roots are curling around the outside here? They've kind of gripped on, so I've got to be gentle when trying to take them off so that I don't break anything. Really don't want to snap any roots off, obviously. So gently, gently, see if I can do this without snapping anything. Okay, come away, come away. Come on. Come out without breaking. All right, here we go. Can I do it? Finicky, come off. Oh, a bit of root damage, but hopefully it's okay. Look at that though. So that one did pretty well. This leaf is on the way out, so I'm just going to take that off. And this is a variegated monkey mask. So I'm just going to squeeze that into the cup down here. And unfortunately, a bit of the root has come off here, so I'll have to keep an eye on that and see what happens if it rots. Geez, it's really dug in though into that rubber, so that seems unavoidable. All right, next one along. This one has lost a leaf as well. Now that is interesting. I think that might be mold on top of the rot there. That's giving that kind of translucent appearance. So I'm just going to chop this off. It's eating away at it, look at that. But besides that, pretty healthy. A little bit of dead growth on the top here. But it's interesting, that dead growth was sitting on top of this root, and the root is perfectly healthy. So yeah, it is one of these interesting things, at least rot on plants. People in the plant community seem to always freak out about it being really contagious and dangerous, but it may be, you know, a problem that can spread from one plant to another, or from one part of the plant to another part of the plant. But I often find that something will be rotting right next to something else that's really healthy, and it doesn't necessarily mean just because there's a little bit of rot that the entire plant is going to go and is going to be cooked, you know. So yeah, I think there's a bit more fear than is justified for rot. Another one that's looking really good, I think this is just a standard variegated adansonii. So I may have mixed these together, the monkey mask ones and the standard ones. Again, I have to work out what to do. I think this one will need to be potted up. It's pretty long. And then lastly, I think this is one that obviously, this is so cute. A leaf came off at some point, but it has rooted down the bottom there. This little nugget. So I might just leave that as is for now because I don't want to fiddle around with it too much. Okay, next is the Cebu Blue. I might move along here a little bit so you guys can see a bit more of what's going on. So I think this, we definitely did sort of pack out quite a bit with cuttings, and oh my God, this one has gone nuts. So, ooh, it's even attached to the next. Look at that. Jesus, it's going down under the next pot. All right, can you get in there? I think I'll just leave it like that. Look at that. So this was, yeah, it's 2 cuttings of Cebu Blue. I guess we'll take them out here. Two noded cuttings. This is a similar story. The top node there has gone nuts. And look at this, there's roots coming out of the internodal spacing there, a whole bunch of them. So there's at least 3 roots below the node I can see. I don't know if I hold them up against the wall there, they're coming out. That's crazy. And another one up there. So that's really cool. So this is Cebu Blue, Epipremnum. Looks like it's had no problem at all rooting in this system. And on that one, the bottom node didn't actually activate, interestingly. Whereas this one, the bottom node has activated. And see, here's an example. That root has obviously rotted off, the original one that had come out here. See, there's like a little brown stump. And then a root has shot out from the bottom of it. Pretty cool. We've got a few nodes, I think, along here, but primarily these 2 that have activated. And again, you could chop all these up. So you could chop here, and you could chop between these 2 to get 3 cuttings, 3 rooted cuttings. There are more nodes here, but 3 rooted cuttings out of that single, initial cutting that we took. And that was just one pot. So we have at least 4 cuttings out of a single pot there. So I think this is a really good technique, guys. If you're wanting to get more out of these systems, just chuck in multiple noded cuttings when you are rooting them, and yeah, you should be able to reap the rewards. So this one's also had a bit of rot. See again, so this rot has been sitting on top of these roots, but the roots below are nice and white. So just goes to show the rot won't just kill everything it touches. Though that doesn't mean, you know, that it's not a massive pain in the ass also. There's another bit here. Ugh. That actually looks like the entire cutting has gone. So I have to work it out, but it looks like there's probably about 10 to 15% loss through rotting, which is probably hard to avoid when you're using such a high humidity environment. One thing you could do if you wanted to avoid this is potentially just take off the lid so that it's not as humid on the top. Keep an eye on the liquid coming out because it does tend to sort of, I don't know, it does tend to leak out a bit. But yeah, if you're worried about rot and too much humidity at the top there, you can just take the top off. So there's another one there. Roots aren't as developed on this one. And here's the next one. Interestingly, the bottom has rooted really well, and then the next nodes up have done nothing. So, yeah, what's this one doing? Where are you grabbing onto? Where are you being grabbed on? It's the next one across. Okay, it looks like we lost an entire cutting here that rotted off, but the one next to it seems to be all good. Now it does look like it, yeah, there's a bit of root rot here. Take that off. But similar sort of thing again, where the nodes above have activated and the nodes below have too. And then we have this one here. Again, it's gone into the next pot and the root has found its way along this one. So I have to like gently coax it off. But look at that. Okay, so another 2 cuttings in here. Actually, there might be 3. This looks like quite a few. How many did we put in here? Okay, try and do this quickly. 1, so there's only 1 node there that's activated. And yeah, there are 3 cuttings in here. Same thing here. Nice big hairy root though. And this one with 2 roots coming out of 2 nodes. So yeah, I guess this little experiment has worked pretty well. So the next one is Monstera siltepecana. Look at all that algae that has grown on top of that. I need some paper towel. So I think we only had a handful of cuttings of the siltepecana that I took, so these won't be double planted. But yeah, they have, ooh, I'll just bring this one up a little higher and I might put him back. But the growth point, you can see the growth point in the middle there, was sort of below the node. So I might actually just put him like so, and we'll chuck him back in. He'll need a bit more time. So the Monstera siltepecanas here have taken a little longer. Same thing here, I'm going to give this a bit more time. And how are these next ones if we come along here? Yeah, so that one needs a bit longer. And I might give this one a little longer as well, till I get some secondary roots coming out. Okay. And I think it might be the same for the Monstera laniata. See, these have taken quite a while to do anything, so I'm gonna probably leave those in there too. And it's interesting, we potted all these up at the same time, but some of them have gone off and others haven't. Now, I'm just going to have a quick peek underneath and have a look to see. Some of the laniatas have taken off, some haven't. I'm not sure if you can see there. They are the ones in blue. So there's one right at the top there that has done pretty well. The other ones are kind of, they've all popped, but they haven't done as much as one another. So, whoop, almost dropped it, a bit slippery. I might leave those as is, but I may take out the sodoroi because they look like they have done very well. Look at that. Far out. Philodendron sodoroi definitely enjoy the Aeroponics clone station. So let's see if I can take this off without damaging anything. How many have we got here? Do we have 2? I think we do. Wow. Every single node has activated here. All right, I'll see if I can, Jesus, split this up. The roots have kind of like grown along one another and are sort of holding each other together. Okay, here. Yeah, okay, I see the difficult part up here. There we go. All right, and here. Oh, you've grown into the sheath. Ugh, can I get you out? It's grown down into the sheath of one of the leaves. This root here, and is making it very difficult to kind of get it out. There we go. All right, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So these sodoroi doing very well. Every single node there. So that is at least 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 rooted cuttings there that I could chop up. And the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes almost that have activated. Absolutely incredible. This is another one. We had the janky one that we put in here to see if it would root. This was this weird one doing the loop-de-loops. So let's see how it's gone. Okay, so that was the janky one. It looks like it's done okay. Maybe the humidity has sorted out the leaves popping out from one another. You can see at the bottom there they were having trouble. So there's that one, and then there's this longer cutting here, which is looking really nice. All of those roots coming out, man, I am so impressed. Go sodoroi. And a similar thing here. That one's looking good. Nice root activation, development. Node activation, I guess. Okay, gently try and peel this guy off the rubber insert. There we go. I've got to work out what to do with these guys. I might have to start selling them, as we have quite a few here, many more than I need. And look at that. Again, just roots galore. All right, so I haven't done anything too fancy here with these guys. I've just given them a quick rinse and a wipe down. And yeah, we'll chuck them back in here. Now looks like I'm missing some. Ah, there's one here that escaped. Now what I could do whilst I'm here is also work out what else to put in here. Maybe I'll do that in another video. We'll come up with some other ideas of things to chop up and to fit in here. So dome goes back on the top, hopefully without disrupting too many of the cuttings here. And I'm going to take it back, plug it in, and we'll get to potting up some of these plants. Okay, I guess we'll start with the Epipremnums. We'll get the lechleriana out of here. Get out of here! And I think the goal with these was to originally start a sort of basket, so I guess I will pot them all up together. I'm not sure whether to do it in soil or leca for now. I might do it in leca, just thinking, what can I chuck them in? They could potentially fit in one of these. Maybe we chop them up first and then we work it out. So, I might just use my scissors. I'm a bit lazy today, but we'll go through and work out how many cuttings we can sort of chop up. I might just do that because I'm evil and remove these ones that don't have any roots. And I'll just take these as 2 separate cuttings as well, and we'll just chuck them in and see what happens. They're probably just going to rot, but we will see. This one, it's a little harder because there's no leaves at the bottom here, so what I could potentially do is chop here and at least give it a leaf at the top there to photosynthesize, so to give it a head start. This one I could potentially chop into 2, but because this root is so short, I might leave it as is and just see how it goes. It'll be fine. Next one along, this one has pretty rudimentary roots at the top there. Some of them look like they've kind of rotted away, so again, I don't have high hopes, and this one has nothing, but I'm going to chop those and chuck them in here too. Same thing here, bottom one doesn't have anything, so I might just give that a chop. Because you can, from what I hear, you can actually root things in leca, so we'll see how they go. Hopefully they can at least hold on for a little while. This one's a bit iffy because there's kind of nothing at the top, although there is a leaf that's about to unfurl, so I reckon we can give that a go. Again, sort of learning. So I've chopped that bottom one that had some roots there. Chuck that in there, and this one looks like it should unfurl a leaf and have obviously a leaf to photosynthesize with shortly. Interestingly here, the bottom has activated, the top hasn't. I'm just gonna chop all these up, chuck them in, and just wish them the best, I guess, yeah. I'm expecting to probably get, I don't know, 20% loss, maybe a little bit more, but the rest should take off inside leca. They should do pretty well. And I guess it's a similar sort of situation here. Maybe chop it as well. Screw it, we'll give it a go. See what happens. I'm not too phased. So I probably should have put a little thing of leca at the bottom first. The other thing you could do is potentially chuck these into moss and chuck them under a light in a Ziploc bag. That is another option as well, where you could just do that. You could also put water in here and just let them keep going, although they probably slow down a little bit. How much leca do I have? I'm gonna have to get some more, I think. But yeah, I'll go get some leca and then we'll pot this up. All right, so we got the leca there. I guess I will pull these guys all out and scoop up a little reservoir there at the bottom. And hopefully they all fit okay in here. Should do all right. So I'm just gonna try and arrange them so that the roots are all going down into the leca as I put it in here. It's gonna be a bit of a mess though, considering the number of cuttings I've got in here. I don't know how much of this I'm gonna be able to fill out. Sometimes the leca won't be able to get sort of down and into it. Just get down, root. You're coming up. You got to go down. Wrong direction. Okay. So I'm also going to try and get these ones that have the short little stubby ones with no leaves to be at the top as well. Remove the rotting sheath here. You could be a lot more anal about how much of the rotting material you remove, guys. I probably would be if these were rarer or more expensive plants. I just kind of want to see how they go and learn. Perhaps rot won't be a problem, perhaps it'll be a massive issue, but it's all a learning experience. Okay, so I guess while they're kind of like this, I'm just going to bush them up a bit and try and fill the leca in around from all sides. There's a leaf sinking down. Come up, mate. This is the hard part, making sure that the roots and those ones that you are trying to root that don't necessarily have roots are kind of sunk down far enough, but also that the ones with the growth points are close enough to the top that those growth points will obviously be able to come out and up. Okay, this is definitely going to be interesting to see how they survive. You guys will have to let me know what you reckon if you've got any advice here. Hoping it works well. The stems are somewhat low, but I think if I can keep the reservoir sort of below that or sort of out where the stems are, they should do okay and they shouldn't rot. But yeah, there we go. There's the first one. And I guess we'll see how it goes. So let's fill up that reservoir about 2.5, 3 centimeters. Whoop. That's probably a bit much, but we'll see how it goes. There we go. Maybe a little bit too much. I'm just going to pour a tiny amount of this out. There we go. That should do. All right, so similar sort of story with this guy. I think all I'm really going to do is put some leca in here. In fact, that's probably not going to be big enough. I'm going to need a bigger cup. We're going to need a bigger boat. I wonder, would he fit in there? Probably. Yeah, that should be all right. We'll use this one. Little reservoir at the bottom there. Sneak the roots in and see how it goes. Little adansonii semi-hydro. Cute. So there's that one. I don't know why this leaf is having such a hard time unfurling. Do you need a hand or are you just having a shit go of it? Okay, maybe a little bit more. Makes that there open. So that's where the water reservoir is there. Who is next? Oh, we've got another one. This one is intense. This one though is the normal adansonii. Now, I used to have the Zebrina in this one, but I wonder if I can put this guy in and just kind of circle him around with those roots, that big, long, beautiful root, and fill her up. Need some of these smaller ones to fit around the corner here. This is probably a bit of a tight squeeze, but it'll be fun to see if it kind of takes off in this micro jar. It's not that small, but you know what I mean. All right. This is normal adansonii one. The bottom of the aerial root has gone all the way down into the reservoir there, but I think it was kind of unavoidable, and it had been sitting in the water reservoir anyway, so it's probably sort of water roots at that point anyway, so I'm not expecting it to have a bad time of it. I might fill this up, I don't know, 4 centimeters or so. That was, I think, where the reservoir went to. There we go. Now we are on to the lechleriana. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do with these guys. I guess I could do the same thing, but I could also chuck them in soil, and I also have a basket of these guys that I was growing out. Where is it? It's up behind me somewhere here, and it seems to be doing well, but I'm not sure whether or not to plant these back into it or to actually try and grow them out. I might do them in soil, just make another bush of them. So I might chop these ones up that have sort of 2 nodes or more with decent roots, and we'll see how they go. Off my thumb. Now, lechleriana monstera is a really interesting one where these, it's kind of similar to siltepecana, where the fenestrations are a little larger than siltepecana, but they happen sort of closer to the midrib on these leaves, which is pretty cool. And the leaves actually get massive on the lechleriana if you grow it out. And I haven't actually seen anyone do that on a pole yet. So even Sydney Plant Guy, I don't think he has really sort of tackled lechleriana on a moss pole or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see if someone does one day, and I was sort of planning to at some point. That would be fun. Don't know how this one's going to go. That doesn't have any roots. This one's does. Do the same thing. Maybe I just chuck these into the semi-hydro after all. We'll just see how they go. Bit of rot at the bottom here. Chop that off. And then we have these two. And the cool thing is, the one that I can see at the bottom here, that little node has activated slightly. I'm not sure if you can really see it, but I can see that it has just activated. So again, I may just chop these two. That is so intense, like the length of that. And I think we might do the same thing. Bit of a reservoir at the bottom here. And I guess we'll try and deal with you first, because you're going to be a massive pain in the butt. So the sort of go here is to kind of slide that initial tip down and then just keep twisting until it's kind of below the level you need it at. But sometimes you have to kind of hold it in place, otherwise it just goes twang. All right, so same thing here. Get you down low, 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 low. That one's going to have to get cut because it's too long. Again, I think these are going to die, to be honest, but the ones with roots should take off. They should absolutely take off. You know what? I might do a couple of these in soil. The one with the really good root, I might actually take you out and do you in soil, and the rest of you can just go here. Because if I can get 2 decent cuttings growing in soil, I can probably chuck them up on a moss pole pretty quickly and pretty easily. So that might be the goer. To find, maybe I'll do 3 into soil. All right, and the rest of you guys can go in here. Alrighty. So, I'm going to try and bunch these guys together as I hold them up like so. Which is the one that has this growth point that I don't want submerged too far down. I need you sort of closer to the surface. Sort of having to really pile the leca up on the top here because there are some roots that are really close to the top. So I'm just going to put in probably about 2 or 3 centimeters worth. The bottom here, submerge some of these roots because they have managed to get their way right down to the bottom there, and we'll just see how they go. I probably also need to label this because some of these, especially lechleriana, start looking like everything else, adansonii or siltepecana, once you separate them out. So Monstera, lechleriana. And I have to get some soil. So let me grab some small pots and I'll be back in a tickamaroo. Okay, so I've got some of these pots here and I've gone and got my really chunky soil mix, but what I have done, what do I need? Matt's outside, so I'm just going to use this for now, I think. Should work. What I've done is put some sort of potting soil in there just to reduce the chunk a little bit of my chunky mix because it is pretty chunky. All right, so I might get this up here on my lap. I don't know how these guys are going to go. This one may not do amazingly. I should have probably put this guy into there actually. You shouldn't be out here. But these should do pretty well. So I think what I'm going to do is put a bit of the chunkiness at the bottom and then chuck these roots in, sink him down to about that far, and then mix in a little bit of the soil that I just put in here, that potting soil, and just fill in the rest of the pot. Just so that there will be a little bit of moisture retention. If it's just the chunky stuff, especially in these tall, long pots, I found that they dry out so quickly and the water just goes straight through them. So this should hold on to the moisture a little bit longer each time it gets watered, just to make sure that those roots can transition easily from the aeroponics system to this one, to the soil. Okay, so same thing here, massive root that I'm going to try and get in there and then just do the little twisty swirly thing and coax him down, and hopefully heaps and heaps of secondary roots come out of this massive earthworm of a root. Will you please just go down, just twist, why aren't you twisting? Twist down, there we go. Perfect, same thing, getting a bunch of that soil as well as the chunky perlite bark, orchid bark that I've got in here. I've got some tan bark as well, some worm castings, some charcoal, all the good stuff. And I'm just going to try and sink it down. Cover those roots up, make sure the node is kind of at the top though, so that when it activates, it won't have to go through too much soil to sprout out the top. Okay, so there's that one. That should do okay. And the last one is this one. Whew. So some of the chunkiness at the bottom. Squeeze this guy in. Some nice roots here. No secondary roots, but quite a few of these sort of primary roots coming off the plant, off the cutting. Okay, I'm going to keep him down there. And fill in. Using a bit of this soil, make sure that it is a little less chunky than normal. Now, what I do have here, which should help, label-wise, are these pens, these golden and silver pens. So I can do Monstera, Lech, and I'll just do one on there. Monstera, Lech, 2, and Monstera, Lech, 3. So that I can keep track of what's what. Okay. Now, the only last group to deal with are these sodoroi, and I'm not sure if this will be a basket kind of situation. I don't know if this plant kind of grows out and down. I feel like it just grows vertically, at least in my experience, so I'm not sure how well that would work as a trailing basket. I guess we could give it a burl, see how it goes. Otherwise, I could just put them in here for now and potentially take them out in the future. Maybe what we'll do first is chop these guys up, because there are loads and loads of activated nodes here, so I can probably do at least 2 nodes per cutting, especially if they have leaves like this. And that one looks like that little bit in the middle there looks like an activated growth point, which is good. So there's These guys are getting left with heaps of roots. That one's probably fine as is. Yeah, I'll just leave it. And what about you? I might chop you up. Bang, bang, thank you, ma'am. Same thing here. About there. And I think the same thing here. About there. So as you can see, this seems to be a really good system for getting a load of cuttings out of only 24 spots in the clone station. They seem to work really well, activating many, many nodes on the same cutting, and you can chuck in a bunch of cuttings into the same pot, same location, easily enough. So there you go. There's a whole bunch here. I'm not sure whether or not to try and sell these, to be honest, to try and get them out of my hair. And you can smell that pepperiness from the sodoroi. That's really interesting. So, what do I do? Am I just going to pot these all up together? Maybe I just chuck them into a single pot because I'm a lazy boy. And maybe we just do soil because I'm a lazy boy. What do you reckon, guys? Is this going to be overkill, or do you reckon that that's sort of good enough for this many cuttings? I think it should probably be all right. So, guess we'll see how we go. All right. Where's my mat? All right, so I'm gonna grab my mat here. This will be really interesting to see how this works out, but just in the interest of space, saving as much space as possible, I don't think I'm gonna be able to pot these all up individually, to be honest. It's gonna be a massive pain in the ass to try and deal with. Don't have enough room. Okay, that leaf came off. These guys are all pretty small, so this might be overkill. But I want to use a clear pot so that I can see the roots kind of going bananas. The next size down is this guy. Maybe, yeah, maybe. All right, I think I might just bunch all these guys together. This is going to be so dirty. I guess they can be used in multiple ways. And hope that the growth points are above the soil and the roots are below the soil. Okay, I actually think that worked well. That's probably fine size-wise. So we'll see how it goes. Look at that. But there we go. So that's about a dozen cuttings of sodoroi, philodendron sodoroi. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, seeing as they're all kind of pushed in here together. I'm not expecting really decent vertical growth, but it'll be pretty cool if it ends up turning into a little bit of a bush, especially if I can use it as a bit of a mother plant in the future. There's loads of sodoroi on the market at the moment, but if that drops off in the future and it becomes sort of worth investing in, sodoroi to sell them. Let me just write it on the side here. Sodoroi. I'll have a nice little mother plant here. I could always just sell it as is as well. So, cool. All right, well, I guess that's pretty much it. I do have to sneak this little lechleriana into here. I hate waste not, want not, guys, right? Like, when you've got potential like this, and it's a growth point. Look at that. Or a growth point. I always want to say that. It is a growing tip, a tip cutting. Can I sneak you down below the waterline without breaking these roots? Well, not below the waterline, you know what I mean. Come on, get down there. Yeah, hopefully that's good enough. All right. So cool. I guess that's sort of all there is to it, guys. It was sort of a chore video, but this was a kind of first run for me with some kind of somewhat expensive plants and then just more common plants, to see how this system would work. So I think we've probably had about 10 to 15% loss in terms of things that have rotted or nodes that didn't activate in the entire, 2-month period, whatever it was that they were in the clone station. I'm having a slow day. But I think the next step is going to be chopping up a bunch of more expensive plants and then using that clone station as a way of really churning out plants that are sought after, things like Monstera esqueleto or the, what am I talking about? The Monstera adansonii, the variegated ones. So thanks for joining me, guys. YouTube reckons you're going to enjoy this video next, and I'll see you next time.